I have my toned ground, and so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my lightest light and my darkest dark. And keeping in mind when you're composing that your lightest light and your darkest dark, remember, is going to create the strongest focal area. So when you're composing, you're going to say to yourself, I'm going to put my lightest light where it meets my darkest dark. Often they do, right? They meet each other along an edge. I'm going to put them where I want the eye to go first. So when I'm looking at my still life here, my lightest light is the highlight on this ball that's just right about there, okay? But where I have the most value contrast is either going to be where the bottom of the ball, which is in shadow, meets the cast shadow underneath it, or where the white ball meets the shadow side of that black box, okay? So, but I'm putting in my lightest light here, and I'm just going to make it a little bit more opaque. And I'm painting with a brush, not a palette knife. And we're going to practice brush painting today. That doesn't mean you can't get out your palette knives, but I'm going to be helping you work on your brush painting. And my darkest dark, boy, it really does look like it's along this edge here. And there's also one down here. I took care of some proportion issues in my drawing, but I'm not going to be really picky right now about my edges just yet because I'm not painting anything up against it. But having said that, now I get to decide where I'm going to go. And it's best to go next to your lightest light or next to your darkest dark. Because remember, if I just start picking any other relationship out here in the painting, if I just say, I want to paint this shadow back here, I don't have much to go against. In other words, I can guess what it's going to look like, but down here it's going to be different. Maybe I could paint the shadow next to this edge, right? And so I think I know which value it's going to be. I think it's going to be this one. That is so close. And of course, we'd be looking at the still life and going like this. So I know it needs to maybe just be a tiny bit darker than this, but let's just go ahead and put it in and see how it looks. Does that come close? And I'm noticing that it's a little darker at the bottom in this shadow. Remember, every surface undergoes some sort of value gradation. So I might paint it a little bit darker down there. And why? Because the box is actually casting a tiny bit of shadow inside the shadow.
So how are you making it darker? Putting a little more of a dark paint?
I just went one value darker and mixing it in there. So I remember I said every shape, every object, every surface undergoes some sort of value gradation. So I need to go back to this black side of this box, and I need to give it a slight value gradation. And what I think is happening is when I look at this box, it's slightly lighter here in the upper corner, and then it kind of gets darker as it goes down behind the sphere. And so I'm just going to do that right away, just so that I don't get some flat shape right in the middle of my picture. I don't think you have to do a lot of mixing if you make at least 5 values on your palette. You can mix the rest of it all up here.